Hey guys, so I'm currently in my hotel room and it is day 5 of quarantine in Beijing. I just want to say a few quick things before getting started with the video. First of all, I actually got this idea because a friend from the media wanted some reference files for this report that she was working on, so I do apologize for sounding so serious and formal in a lot of these videos. It was super embarrassing to play them back to myself and look at how awkward I was. So I can only imagine what you guys are about to go through. Secondly, because I've been recording with my phone and earphones this entire time, the video and audio quality do get a bit shaky at certain points, especially after I started to record in secret. I've tried to salvage as much of that as possible, so I hope you guys can understand. If I've learned anything from this experience, it's that I was definitely not cut out to be a journalist or a vlogger, but regardless, I hope you guys find this interesting and enjoy. Good morning everyone and greetings from Tokyo, Japan. As you guys all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has sent the whole world into a frenzy, so above all, I hope you guys are all staying safe and practicing responsible social distancing. I'm currently on my way to Narita Airport to catch a flight to Beijing, scheduled for around 9:30 a.m. I arrived in Tokyo 2 days ago from Paris following the French president's announcement of a national lockdown. And since most of my family is in Beijing, a lot of information as to what is currently going on, and frankly, there has been a lot of confusion and chaos. I know that Beijing is under a tremendous amount of pressure right now, trying to deal with a huge influx of foreigners heading to the territory to seek shelter from the pandemic. So it would be really interesting to discover what is currently going on the ground and how the Beijing authorities are dealing with the situation. As a foreign national, I hope that I can provide some clarity for those who are also considering entering the Chinese territory. Literally every single person on this plane is wearing a mask. So this is the form that we were given before boarding the aircraft. It asks for a variety of information, including your address in the next 14 days, and if you're here for business, the details of your organization. It also requires you to indicate whether you've had any potential contact with the virus within the past 2 weeks, and whether you have had or currently have any symptoms. At the bottom, it also says that you could be punished by up to 3 years in prison if you fail to declare this information correctly, and this is probably because some people entering China in the past have actually taken anti-inflammatories to conceal their symptoms and fever. I was advised by my family not to take off my mask at any point during the flight, but because I woke up at 5 and left straight for the airport without having anything to eat or drink, I did actually take my mask off briefly to have a meal on the plane.
A member of the One World Alliance. This is your Captain Nakamura speaking from the flight deck. As we arrived earlier than our standard arrival time, however, we cannot open the door because of the late arrival of the quarantine officer at the ship side. This is the Chinese government regulation. We have the current information that the officer will come to this airplane in about 30 minutes from now.
So we were finally allowed to get off the plane after about half an hour, and we were greeted by loads of airport staff with hazmat suits. Not exactly what I'm used to, but I guess these are exceptional times. It's like some sort of makeshift quarantine quarters. Even before baggage claim.
再下一项，自今日起后14日的住址。
I was just told not to record or take pictures here. I wonder why. 你好。
来下一位。
走，谢谢。
哦。
There's another second barrier. Not sure what it's for because the guy just looked at my forms and said everything's okay.
你是外国护照是吧？给我看一眼。会写汉字吗？
会。
你是从法国来的吗？
我是从东京飞过来的。
那你这个是从巴黎还是东京？你是东京转的机吗？
不是，我在东京待了2天，我是先从巴黎到东京待了2天，然后。
那你这也需要把东京写上。
哦，因为我前面有写是从东京过来的，所以我就。
你要写吗？
然后我把那个写在加上是吧？
对。这个别墅是具体到一家的吧，对吧？
是别墅的。
是到门牌号的吗？
对啊，那个是那个门牌号。
就是你家是吧？
对。
太热了吗？早啊，杨哥鱼。
行了，可以了，我先走吧。
谢谢。
不客气。
After getting the go-ahead, we had to pass another temperature check. Here, as you guys can see, they use video monitors, and there are actually some staff sitting behind the computers to make sure that everything is in order and that nobody has a fever.
你好，到哪里的？
我不转。
到北京是吗？
对。
到北京直接然后在里边通道排队就行了。
At this point, I really hoped that I had a good seat on the plane because if one person turns out to be positive, their whole 6x6 seat perimeter would also have to be quarantined in a special location instead of a hotel. So I just passed Chinese customs and it was a really unusual experience. They asked a lot of specific questions about where I was coming from, my travel history, they wanted to clarify everything, and the man had me speak into a speaker thing. Twice I asked him whether they were recording my voice and he just remained silent, so I would have to assume that they were, which makes me question whether I should be making these videos if the government can just use voice recognition and track me down. So we'll see what happens. So this used to be a departure hall, but now it's been converted into some sort of baggage claim, it seems. Quite an interesting system. So now we are being escorted by a police car to an exhibition center. It's only about a 20-minute drive away from here, and it's usually used for car shows and stuff like that, so it'll be interesting to see what it looks like now. Because the situation in Beijing is changing every day, there's a lot of uncertainty going on. Before, it was fine to self-quarantine at home for 14 days, but now we are all being transported to an official location and being allocated a place, a hotel, to quarantine ourselves in. I had originally booked a flight for this afternoon, and it was cancelled after being announced that it would reroute via Inner Mongolia for initial screening. Hence why I booked an earlier flight, and so now we are about to get off the bus and take some coronavirus tests. I'm not sure what specifically that entails, but it is honestly like a dystopian society here.
北京吗？是北京吗？是。欢迎大家。
So this place is split by area of residence, so they would pick a hotel for you based on which place is closest. I have just registered at my own district, So now I think I'm supposed to head. As I was saying, now I'm supposed to head to the counter for my district and pick a hotel. It's clear that everything here was set up really quickly, as you guys can probably tell. I guess that's a benefit of having such a top-down system of governance.
护照登记牌拿出来啊，然后去那儿办理。就是现在就这一家酒店。
行，那就这一家，那肯定就。I'm currently in the waiting area for the bus that will take us to our designated quarantine hotel. The hotel is located 90 kilometers away from where we are right now, which is a big contrast to my home. That's a 15-minute drive away. To show just how fast Chinese policy is evolving at the moment, a few days ago, everybody had the option to self-quarantine at home, but that is no longer the case. Just yesterday, foreign and Chinese nationals were to be separated in quarantine, but now because all the hotels are at such overcapacity, that is also no longer an option, so everybody will be sent to the same place. Here you guys can see that as we walk towards the bus outside, the railings are lined with words of encouragement, I guess. Their tone kind of reminds me of the kind of propaganda we might see all over the city, so it's pretty interesting. This one says, "We isolate the virus but not love." Very wholesome. The next one, what does that say? "Let's make a joint efforts for epidemic prevention." Prevention's an interesting word. I'll give the Chinese government the benefit of the doubt, but at this point I don't think it's prevention anymore. This one says, "Spring always puts an end to winter." I guess it's supposed to be poetic in Mandarin, but it might not be the case in English. So for those of you who still aren't worried about the virus, I present to you the situation in China. So as you guys can see, we are clearly very, very far away from the Beijing city center. We arrived at the hotel after around an hour or so on the bus. So this was just another form that we had to fill out before entering the hotel, and it's basically so that we can start logging our quarantine days. Just the standard stuff as usual. So after 12 long hours of travel, I'm finally at the quarantine room. It's actually really, really nice. The bathroom is really big and spacious. And the room itself, there are actually 2 single beds, but obviously I'm going to be staying alone, and a desk and a little couch. So it seems like the conditions are great. It's sad that we're stuck in this room for 2 weeks. We literally cannot step out the door. And so what happened when we first arrived was that we had to fill in a lot of forms, we had to get our temperature checked and record it down, and we had to actually prepay for the entirety of our stay because everyone has to pay for it themselves. So it was around 600 RMB per night, which makes 8,400 for the entire stay. I don't know what that is in pounds, but I'm guessing it's around 1,000. So I just heard a knock on my door. It should be dinner. So they leave it on these little counters so that we're not in direct contact with the delivery staff. And so we just kind of take it and have it in our rooms. So it looks like we have some yogurt, a banana, a seaweed soup, and some rice, vegetables. That looks like chicken. Not sure what that is. Some sort of bun, I'm guessing. So there's actually a lot of stuff. I'm hoping that there will be some variety with the food we're getting. I'm sure there will be. So this won't be too bad at all. Okay, so I just got ready for bed, and clearly this is one of the videos I'm not going to be sending to my friend in the media. So yeah, that was a long day. I mean, usually a door-to-door journey between Tokyo and Beijing would take me like 5 or 6 hours, but today it took me 12 or 13. So I'm absolutely exhausted. But I did, go through some very interesting things, and I heard a lot of interesting stories. I mean, in particular, there was this couple who was 78 and 74, and under official Chinese regulations, if you're under 14 or over 70, you can self-quarantine at home even now. So everyone was kind of confused as to why they were there with us. And it turns out, yeah, in theory, you're allowed to self-quarantine, but to do that, you have to fill out an application form. Like, just your ID card with your date of birth is not enough proof, apparently. So that couple was missing, like, a certain piece of information, so they just didn't fill out the form. And after we got to the hotel, they kind of explained the situation to the staff, and they were really old. Like, I doubt they could have taken care of themselves properly. So the staff actually decided to let them stay overnight and leave the next day, so they should be leaving tomorrow, which is good. Another interesting thing I found out about is that couples are actually not allowed to stay together, even though I think most rooms are made up of 2 single beds. I get that, like, China doesn't want these imported cases to spread across the city, but, like, I mean, if you're literally just staying with one other person, even if one of you guys are sick, you're only going to infect one other person. Like, it's not going to, devastate the whole city. And I think it's good to be able to stay with your partner for the sake of your sanity. I mean, most people are here, well, everyone is here by themselves for 2 weeks, and you're not even allowed to go into the hall. So, like, I know a couple who are staying across the hall from one another, but they can't see each other at all unless they, like, time themselves really well when they go pick up their food. But yeah, it's pretty weird. I feel like I have quite a lot of things to do with myself here, so I'm not super worried about going crazy just yet. But I hear that we have to take our temperature regularly and report them in a WeChat group. WeChat is like the Chinese equivalent of Facebook because everything is blocked. So I think I'll have to be doing that twice a day. It'll also be interesting to see, what kind of food we're getting. It's apparently included in the hotel fee, which is nice, I guess. And yeah, so I that's it for now. But I might film some more stuff about, what it's like to actually live here for 2 weeks. But, I'm lazy, and I doubt you guys care too much beyond this point. So we'll see. But yeah, I hope this kind of helped shed light on the situation in China and in Beijing more specifically. I know it's very, very different to what's going on in Europe. I think China, for obvious reasons, is taking this much more seriously. So yeah, I hope this helped, and stay safe.